Okay, I want to introduce the three characters for our Symbaroum session for tomorrow night. Again, this is an icebreaker session. I'm running this session. This session involves Dell as a player character, David as a player character, and Justin as a player character. And then at some point, we'll schedule and David will run a session of Symbaroum for us, and I'll make a character for that session. Okay, so I had to make Dale's character for him because he does not have the books, and that's fine. I gave him a name directly from the options. Dale's character's a goblin, self-taught mystic. Again, it offers male names, so I went with Shig. I figured that's something we can all remember. His shadow is pale green with brown waves. This is what people see when they cast basically witch sight on him, what his shadow looks like. His attributes, accurate, cunning, solid, discreet, not real sneaky, persuasive, 7, again, not set out to persuade. Decent quickness. His resolute as a mystic, very important because this is how he uses his mystical ritual magic. Strength not very high, and his vigilant, of course, is important to this particular character. So resolute also has a lot to do with corruption, so it's important to have a decent resolution score for magic users and mystics. His toughness is automatically set at the minimum 10 if his strength is below that, so that's his hit points. Pain threshold is 3. This is when somebody hits him and does enough damage in one shot over his 3, he will be knocked. He'll have a choice. He can either be knocked prone, or that creature gets a second free attack. So he has the choice. Either way, getting up from a prone, he's either disadvantaged, or his opponents are advantaged when he's in a prone position, or he has to get up from that position, which creates a free action against him again. So being knocked down, either way, generally someone's going to get a free attack against you one way or another. You could stay on the ground and fight at a disadvantage, though, to give you an idea of what your options are there. His corruption threshold, this is what, when there's a chance he's corrupted from either utilizing certain magics, dealing with the dark, dealing with the things in the world that could effectively give him temporary or permanent corruption. He needs to make that roll against an 8. Again, you have to roll under everything in this game, right? Traits, he's short-lived. That's something goblins have. He ages quickly. He dies they die around 40 years old. This is a role-play only effect. It actually doesn't affect game. It's for role-play only. I did not give him an age here. I'm going to let Dell try to figure out some of this stuff as a character on his own. Pariah, he must re-roll social challenges and take the worst result when he's dealing with his race. When he's in social situations. However, when dealing with his own race, he can ignore all of those checks unless it's impossible or higher difficulty. So what's very cool is when he's dealing with a goblin of his own race and there's a social challenge, he ultimately doesn't have to make a check unless it's going to be difficult to impossible. So that's a very cool trait. Mystical powers, I gave him Adept Curse. So instead of 2 powers, he has 1 power at Adept. This means as a free action, he can curse any target in combat, and he must re-roll any success. It forces them to re-roll any success that they would have in combat and take the worst roll. So that's a pretty effective deal. He does have to make a resolution check versus them to achieve it. It's a free action, though, so he can still move in combat, but he can curse. So he could technically make a move, attack something, and then turn and curse something as a free action, which is very cool. So he's capable of doing these things as a free action in combat only, right? Ritual, he has fortune telling. He would have to narrate the ritual, how he learned the ritual, but then narrate that ritual, and then he can ask me a yes or no question. Witch sight, he can see the shadow of a target, see their corruption level, so he can utilize witch sight to see it when he's dealing with some person, maybe what their real shadow is. Again, Dell was concerned about the fact that maybe characters that don't have magic may be OP, because magical characters, when they utilize their powers, could suffer corruption. However, what Dell doesn't, I think, know too, is magic. Obviously, that's to help curtail how often you overuse magic. But at the same time, he still can use pretty darn good weapons. So he's got a flail, as long as it's a single-handed weapon. He has a flail, which does 1 to 8 damage. It's jointed, which means even if they defend themselves on any odd roll in defense, it still does 1d6 damage. So his character is not inept in combat, which is pretty darn cool. So let's say he hits the warrior, but the defense, it's an odd number roll. He won't do 1 to 8, but he'll at least do one. He misses technically, but he would still do 1 to 6 against their defense with the flail, which is pretty dang cool. He has wolf skins, which will soak 1d4 damage every turn it's hit. The impediment is 2, which is the best you're going to get for light armor. It's cumbersome armor, but his defense will be an 8 when in armor. His defense is a 10 when not in armor. Let's see here. His weapon, I already did that. Armored money. He has 5 shillings. Again, they start ultimately broke, do mystics, especially this goblin, so he has not a lot of spending money. He has a backpack with camping gear, bedroll, blanket, cooking stuffs, water skin, flint, steel, rope, and firewood, a small animal snare. He carries a small, shot-sized wooden cup. That is all that remains of his father. So this is kind of his trinket. He'll have to describe his appearance. He'll have to come up with his background, and he should come up with a personal goal. These are the things I'm leaving to Dell. So hopefully he'll come to session with some of that in mind. But that's Dell's character. Let's go ahead and take a look at Justin's character. Is Vicomir, human barbarian, witch. Very cool. Dark green with flecks of orange is his shadow. His maximum toughness is 11. His pain threshold 6. His corruption is 8, so it's very cool. He's got great resolution. Again, as a witch, it's important to have a good resolution. He's also got solid combat skills, which is great. And then, of course, this is an array, right? They can choose an array. There is an option in the rules to roll 2d6 plus 3 for all your scores, which would be kind of fun to do in old school one day. He's got a lot of neat abilities and powers which come with the barbarian / witch. He's got bushcraft. He'll basically be their guide in the Dakovir unless they hire a guide. He's got witchcraft, of course, as a witch. Natural warrior, which is ultimately barbarian. Shape change, which is something he's, I think, selected as his mystical powers of witchcraft, which is cool. Ritualist, which means he gets 1 ritual. I'm not certain which ritual he selected. Maybe is it down here? I'm not certain which ritual he has. Ritualist is, he has learned 1 ritual, and I believe it's right here. Familiar. So he has a familiar. Wow. Very cool. So pretty stout entry-level character, right? Really cool. He's unarmed, which is fascinating. 1d6. I think he has defense, though, right? Armor and defense. Oh, as a witch, he may not have much. No, his defense is 10. So he's basically unarmed and has no weapon. Or no armor. That is remarkable. I'm not certain if that's pretty cool. Very cool, Justin. He's going straight up witch. He's 25'6", 155 pounds, skinny man wearing dark green clothing with a big cloak. Wears a mask that looks demonic or possible of an angry animal. That's sweet. Background was raised by the crones of my village since I shown a connection with nature which needed to be nurtured. I've learned that I've learned what I can from them, and I must find my sister, who was taken from my family. His personal goal is to find those responsible for kidnapping his sister. So cool. And he's got 5 thalers, so he's got a little bit of money. So very, very nice. Love it. So that's Justin's character. All right. And then we've got David's character, Malleus. Human Ambrian. Sellsword. Point buy. Love it. So he purchased his skills here, which is very sweet. Toughness 10 again. Remember, whatever your strength is that's your toughness. Unless it's below 10, then you automatically get at least a minimum of 10 hit points, basically. His maximum is 10. Pain threshold 5. That's not bad. That's always roughly half your toughness rounded up. And then corruption is half your resolve rounded up, generally, right? So that would be 3. I'm not certain why that's 5. I may have missed something in the rules, or maybe there's an effect here. I'm not certain. And then he's got a quote. His shadow. He has not selected a shadow, so he'll have to describe that to us in session. He's man-at-arms, which is very cool. That means armor no longer affects quickness or quickness-related abilities, and he is an adept, so that's very cool. Twin attack, this is fantastic. He can use a normal weapon in one hand and a short weapon in another. He automatically gets 2 attacks in a round. He also gains a defensive bonus as a passive ability with that second weapon. It's so cool. So his dual-handed combat is sweet, and this is only at novice. So absolutely love that. It is an active. Passive means it always counts. Active means obviously he uses it in combat. And then his exceptional attribute, he has one attribute he selected, persuasive, which is up by 1, which is very cool. It's a passive thing, and it's in effect all the time. He carries a long sword, and he carries a short sword, right? He has medium armor, crow armor, which is cumbersome, impeding his defense by 4, which is sweet, and it does 1d6, though, defensive soak per attack upon him. So very, very nice. So 13, he's pretty darn elusive when not when in armor, making it difficult for them to hit him. However, in armor, a little tougher for him to defend himself. However, good armor soak. So again, these guys are capable, even as first level characters, in a game that I still say is pretty darn lethal. But I love it. He's middle-aged, 6 foot, 175. He's a middle-aged athletic build, more on the lean side. He has a confident swagger and a disarming toothy grin with twinkling gray eyes. His dark hair is cropped at his ears, and both ears are pierced. A light scar dances across his left jawline. A blade is secured to each hip. Love it. Malleus has sold his sword arm for many years since serving his time in the Queen's military. Quickly spinning his meager severance, he had to make a choice between labor or swinging his sword, and he chose what he was already good at, quickly learned, and he grew to reach being a sellsword. I love it. Personal goal. Malleus is being blackmailed by a chambermaid of the Thistlehold nobleman he had an indiscretion with. He must either pay the chambermaid off or find a way to silence her wagging tongue. Love this. Contacts. With a successful roll against persuasive, the character can call to mind a contact that he would be able to help with a specific question in a precarious situation. The contact may not be available directly. That depends on who is included in the web of contacts. Queen's Army is where he's thinking those contacts are going to be. And then he talks a little bit about his equipment here. So fantastic. David has 5 Thaler as well. Absolutely love this. So there's our 3 characters. That way we don't spend a lot of time tomorrow night getting into deep descriptions of the characters. I will probably ask them in the opening scene to give a little flavor as to what their character looks like and their demeanor in that opening scene, but we don't have to get into them explaining a lot about their character now. Plus, we're teaching. I want to share the game. I want to teach the quality of the game. So these videos are not meant to betray any secrets, like his personal goal. Nobody would really know about right now except his character. But Dell and Justin won't metagame this. They're not going to use this information, so don't sweat that. For those viewers watching, but I do want to share what these characters look like, the quality of the makeup of powers and abilities. So very cool. Thank you guys for getting these to me before session. Not that it's going to affect so much what I've prepared, but it's nice to get an idea beforehand what you guys are about, especially when it comes to a background and personal goals. I kind of like knowing that as a GM, what might sneak into play in some ways, right? Very cool. So thank you guys for getting these to me, and I really do look forward to this first session. It is going to be great fun. My goal, I've told the guys this, my goal as an icebreaker is it will be 90 to 2 hours long, the session. Now, it's conceivable. We're having a great time. We might run over a little bit depending on what happens. But I'm trying, as this icebreaker session, to respect everybody's time on a Saturday evening. And again, try to do this in 90 to 2 hours. So, but again, we'll play it by ear, whether we're a little behind. And again, I don't know exactly where they're going to go, what they're going to do. I did prepare an initial thing that ultimately they may or may not fully do. It just depends on what the nature, depends on what happens. But I did traditional preparation for this. There is an opening scene that'll set an opportunity for them, and then they go from there, and then we may use the expedition rules. We'll use the expedition rules for travel through the wilderness to make sure they know they're going in the right direction and what they're doing. That as far as random ruins, in which I roll up random monsters and random ruins. I'm not certain we'll do that. That may occur depending on the end, or I should say, depending on a portion of the session in which they may find themselves in the wilderness, so to speak. But again, a lot of that stuff's up in the air. But anyway, I just wanted to share these characters and a little bit about how tomorrow night hopefully is going to go as we break the ice with this brilliant game. Thank you. Have a great weekend.